quick reminder, my filmmaker retreat in Joshua Tree is October 1st through the 4th, 2026, year 5, everybody. It's a small group of real working filmmakers. I want you to come be a part of a special community, take part in honest conversations, and just take time to think out in the desert. And the food is fantastic. That's where all the magic happens, really, is we all eat our meals together. If you've been craving connection, transformational clarity about your career or life, and you really want to define your voice as a filmmaker, this might be right for you. So DM me or sign up quickly. It will sell out. Oh yeah, there's plenty of Magic Mind at the retreat. That's the mental performance shot that I drink daily. Okay, let's get on with the show.
It's time for Respect the Process, a short chat about commercial filmmaking. Here's your host, director Jordan Brady.
Oh, thank you, Helen. It is, listeners? July 16th. There are 5 spots left for the Filmmaker Retreat, August 1st through the 4th. That's all I'm going to say about that. 5 spots out of 15, our 5th year. I'm super excited. I did my first onboarding call. Wow. I just get so excited hearing people's enthusiasm for the craft and for the art of filmmaking. Great guest today, Jon Sneider. And we talk about his book eventually, Hacking Advertising, how we learn to make ads without the agency, and you can too. So we're going to ruffle some feathers. I'm holding the book, Helen. That's the book. I'm going to flip to any page. Okay, where did I land? Page 128, and the heading is Experienced People Get Shit Done. And he talks about working in small teams, being nimble, going to market with your commercial faster than focus groups can allow. It's a really good chat. What else can I tell you? Posh Duo sales are skyrocketing. We just got our second batch ordered it's a tea tree and citrus fragrance wax in a stick that you rub on your hair, on your beard. And I told people in my newsletter that I really invented the product for myself, first and foremost, because I have a great head of hair and a sexy beard. And I was tired of getting the wax in my fingers and then a second product for my beard. But I also admittedly, I don't know if I've shared this before on here, but I wanted a product to practice with the AI filmmaking tools. As you know, I am tool agnostic. Digital cameras, camcorders, film. I've shot a lot of Fuji and Kodak in my day. I really don't care. The medium has to serve the message, as we say. Live action filmmaking with actors and a crew, there's nothing like it. That's my main squeeze. AI filmmaking is like my side chick. You know, your side chick is... I'm talking like I have a side chick. I don't... Helen, is that inappropriate to even use that term anymore? I think you all understand what I'm saying. It's fun. You're in, you're out. You make stuff real quick. But live action filmmaking is my love. Here's what never happens in the real world. Well, maybe in some kinky circles. You know, your main squeeze and your side chick getting together. That's what I call the hybrid approach to filmmaking. Helen, I don't know why I'm looking at you. Anyway, Posh Duo. That's why I love playing around with the AI for Posh Duo, because otherwise I wouldn't shoot. Someday I will. But I got to have the money, the time, the favors, and get a whole crew together and get actors and models and things like that. So for now, it's a great reason to dabble and hone my skills. And I have to say it's paid off, because I've done a handful of jobs where I have been the conjurer. Real quick, and then we're going to get to Jon. Buy his book. You will love it. If you're in advertising, if you're at an agency, if you're a director working for agencies, if you've ever thought about client direct, read this book, Hacking Advertising. The website, by the way, is hackingadvertising.com. Jon has made it so simple for us to buy Hacking Advertising by getting the URL. I'm going to land the plane, Helen. This is very important. Some of you have already taken it. Use the code VIRTUAL and you'll save $50. But Filmmaker Retreat alum Kevin O'Brien has put together virtual production for commercial directors. And it is a how and, more importantly, why and when to use the LED wall, the volume, and the behind the scenes that he has from he's done literally dozens and dozens of spots on the LED wall. And the courses at commercialdirectingfilmschool.com. Would love to hear what you think about it. Listeners of this show, you get $50 off. And Kevin is going to do, I did push him to do this, do the one-on-one consultation call after you complete the course. So if you have a job coming up and you're considering the LED wall, I would take the course and then take him up on the consultation. Okay, that's enough of me rambling here. Let's get to Jon Sneider. Buy the book, enjoy the podcast. Here we go. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Oh man, I was up in Portland, Seattle. I kind of lump them together sometimes. Yeah. Apologies to everyone, but you know how it is, man. I would have loved to grab a coffee or a soda pop or something, but when you're in town and you're working, everything is consumed except for that 4-hour window. Right. Where you go to a local restaurant or something. So I'm remiss that we didn't hook up.
No worries.
Yeah. How about yourself? What have you been doing?
Just living the dream. I kind of hate that expression, but I just used it. So there we are. Go ahead.
When did you start in advertising? And I'm going to say the origin story means you started on the client side.
I actually started agency side. So I moved back to Boston. I'm from Boston, went to school in Colorado, and then I moved back, spent a few years in Telluride, actually living the dream. And I moved back to Boston to get a real job, and I started selling wave radios for Bose Corporation over the phone.
Wave radios?
Yes.
I don't even know what wave radios are. Is that like a
it was kind of their
radio?
Signature consumer product for a while. And it's basically just a radio, but it had exceptional sound for such a small system. And Bose did a lot of direct marketing on it back then. I went to grad school on Bose's dime, and I got my first gig in advertising when I graduated with my MBA, working for Digitas, which was then one of the largest and most prominent digital agencies in the country. And I was on the General Motors account. And so I kind of got my start as an account soup, running an account for Pontiac GMC. At one point I was managing 5 brands and walking the halls at GM.
That's a huge account.
Yeah. And I used to joke, like, one of the biggest brands in the world has like a bunch of kids like running their digital marketing. And this was in 2000. So
the really digital was new, and you wanted young people running that.
That's right. And it was like, we really did understand it better than they did. And so we did everything from manage their websites to email marketing to banner advertising was still the big thing. Social media didn't exist. We built sites out of Flash, which you'll remember, but a lot of younger people won't. And
Flash was it was basically the early internet's version of stop motion animation that went really fast.
Yeah, it was like
sort of, not really.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like more dynamic animation for the internet circa 2000, right? It was super expensive, cost a lot. You had exclusive Flash designers that it wasn't actual HTML, so not everybody knew how to do it. And it was an amazing time and kind of the best career boot camp I could have ever asked for. Digitas was incredible. I still have close friends from working there over 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. And then I transitioned. I did a strategy project for Microsoft back then. And then I managed accounts at AT&T for like a year and a half. And so go ahead.
Well, just so everything you're saying as an account soup, which is short for supervisor, you didn't say you were a copywriter, an art director, a filmmaker. You were running accounts, schmoozing people, keeping sometimes you're the steward of the creative, right? As an account supervisor.
Very much
You're
so.
taking the creative from the agency and presenting it to the client, the brand.
That's
like
right.
Their CMOs.
Yeah, that's correct. And then you're also managing the creative development from within the agency. So, the first step would be our creatives would present it to the account management team. And for me, it was a lot of, I was the measuring stick. This is on brand. This is off brand. This isn't exactly what the clients asked for. Right. And that was kind of the part that I loved the most. I love developing creative and working with the creatives. And then after that, I went to Mullen, and this was back in the days when they were up in Wenham, and that was also really cool time. Time Warner was launching a product called Game Tap, which was a subscription video game service to older games. And it was the first of its kind. It never really took off like it should have because they never landed Nintendo in that deal. Because, of course, Nintendo was working on its own version of that. But it was an incredible product, an incredible thing to work on. And then after that, I went client side.
I follow you on LinkedIn. I love your posts. Then all of a sudden you showed up in my Instagram. I think they're ads, right?
Yeah, and I've followed you on TikTok for a while, and I think you followed me as well.
True. And I think we share the fact that our TikTok content is regurgitated from Instagram or vice versa.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't do a lot of special TikTok. My TikTok game is intermittent at best.
Gotcha.
And you know why? Because people, I feel like, well, one, I'm, admittedly selling like a film school course. You're selling a book. We're trying to teach people. And I feel like TikTok, they don't appreciate that. Was that fair?
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
It was kind of hard for me to hit on TikTok, and I did go viral a few times, and it was for arguably things that had very little to do with what I was actually doing. Like my most viral video on TikTok, I think I was commenting about the Sydney Sweeney jeans dust up.
Right.
Right. And then that got a lot of interaction, but, had very little to do with what I actually do and,
well, that's
what
the
I
thing.
sell. Right.
And I have filmmaking clips that do okay on TikTok, like behind the scenes stuff. But I find it's more interesting to interact with people on Instagram. And then the last couple of years, LinkedIn obviously has kind of taken off. But then I saw your book, and I want to mention the book right now. I want to get into the book, Hacking Advertising, How We Learn to Make Ads Without the Agency, and You Can Too.
Yes.
And before I bought it, you sent me a book, and I want to say thank you. I read the whole thing. I love it. And if you know that a lot of the listeners to this podcast are filmmakers, how can we frame the book for them? I have a take on this, but if I'm a client, I'm going to love this book.
Right.
I'm going to say, hey, let me call John. Let me skip the agency, work directly with him. And you're all about speed. Let's get the commercial on air, on the web, and measure real metrics. Is it performing versus development hell? I mean, the reason I stay out of television, I love some of the great shows, but they were developed for 7 years, or they got notes from this studio and that studio. So I love commercials because the agency gestation period is 6 months, or or maybe a year. You're saying cut that down to a few weeks. So my question again is, for the filmmakers listening, they should buy this book. How's it going to help them?
Yeah, well, I think the core premise of the book is that with ad agencies and many production companies, there's entirely too many people. And there's too many layers of management. And what my book argues is that you can create world-class creative with a fraction of those people. And what is key is that you have a senior staff of core pros that have been doing this for a long time, decades, right? And if there's small, flat teams, they can function much better than large layered teams. When I was director of advertising at LL Bean, the first time I ever made a commercial, and
how did you get that job?
I was director.
From Telluride, where you were skiing down a slope, and
well, after Digitas and Mullen, I went to Fidelity, and I was director there of on-site marketing. So I was working on brand presentation of the Fidelity.com website, essentially just redesigning it vertical by vertical, right? And turned out I was very good at that, and all of the skills that I learned agency side were super valuable on the client side. And then a job came up, which was head of advertising at LL Bean, and I hit it off with the CMO during the interview, and I told him, I was like, look, I've never managed a TV production before, but I assume it's just like any other project. And he was like, oh, yeah. He goes, I've done a ton of them. You'll be totally fine. And I was like, great. And so, I was hired, moved my young family up to Maine, and then my first task was to run a search for an AOR. And so I ran a national search, met with a lot of the biggest agencies across the country, eventually hired GSD&M out of Austin. They were big in Southwest and a couple of other accounts. They were phenomenal, best pitch I've ever seen. And we worked, and they pitched this TV ad concept, which we really liked. And so we hired them, and then we worked on the ad for a couple of months. And then when it came time to produce the ad, they started talking about which production company they were going to hire to produce it. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, this is how green I was. I said, the agency doesn't produce the ad? And they were like, no. And I was like, who produces it? The production company. And I was like, so we've just been working with 25 people called the ad agency, and now that it's time to make the ad, they don't actually do it? And they're like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. And so, of course, I just went with it. We hired a lovely production company. They worked very well with the agency. One of the agency guys said beforehand, they were like, sometimes the production company, the director, doesn't even want to talk to the agency after they've got the job.
Yeah.
That's obviously not you. But
yeah, and that was a different era.
That was a different era, right?
Yeah.
And so we had a lovely director, very collaborative. We shot a great ad. Everything worked well. Fast forward to, I then moved my family out to Seattle to take a job at Microsoft, and ended up being director of advertising for Windows from 09 to 14. And at the time, Windows was by far the biggest product that Microsoft had, which meant it had the biggest budget. We were spending like hundreds of millions of dollars a year in media. We had the agency of the decade as bestowed by Ad Age, Crispin, Porter, and Bogusky, which I'm sure you remember was super hot back then.
Yeah, this is the 2000s, mid 2000s.
Right, yeah. And so My experience working with them is they were incredible people, and there was such a big team, right? And when I would convey feedback, I would be talking often to an account executive. And even if it was something that came from my boss, we have to change the font on this. They would go, okay, let me run it up the chain. And then it would go from the account executive to the account soup to the account director to the VP AD, right? And then he would send it over to the VP in the creative department, and then it would go all the way down that chain to whoever the art director was. And they would decide, they might say, it's actually strategically, it's important that the fonts stay the same. And then it would come all the way back up and all the way back over and all the way back down.
That's
and then
hilarious.
I would be like, no, my boss said we have to make the change. And so, right. So like a simple decision like that could take literally 2 days. Right. And so there was just a ton of layers of management, and Crispin was great. Right. But everything we did was super expensive. It took a long time, and just the bureaucracy was insane. So at that time, after working with them for years, there was ads that my boss and I just wanted to make. She was super creative. She was actually my boss when I was at Fidelity, and she moved out and brought me out. So we were pretty creative. We both had agency chops, and there was 3 different ad concepts that we had kicking around for a while. And Crispin would just never make them because it was a very not invented here attitude, right? And so I tried an experiment, and I went direct to a production company. And we said, we have these 3 ads we want to make. Would you just make them? And they were like, of course. Why, like, why wouldn't we? Right? It's a chance to work with Microsoft. Hell yeah, we'll do it. And
this is while Crispin was still the agency of record?
Yeah.
And still producing stuff for you, but you said, hey, we can do whatever we want.
So the way we sold it in originally was it was going to be digital videos, right? And so that wasn't necessarily Crispin's purview. They made our TV ads.
Out of the scope of the arrangement.
That's right. And so what happened was one of the guys from Broken Lizard from, Super Troopers fame.
Oh, yeah.
Was part of this company, and so we ended up having the Super Troopers, the Broken Lizard crew, working on this.
It's like a sketch group, and they made that movie Super Troopers. It was,
that's right.
It's like broad sketch comedy, really funny, early 2000s to when was that? Yeah, I forget when that movie was. But anyway, so they had a production company. They were chomping at the bit to do a commercial for you.
That's right. And so we shot 3 ads, and for $500,000, and which was unheard of. When we shot with Crispin, we would shoot with the big production houses in
Martin
LA.
Granger was a big director that did a lot of Crispin work.
Hungry Man. We shot with Hungry Man a lot, and Pretty Bird. And those type, right? And so the productions themselves would cost $600,000 to $800,000, plus we're paying the agency, like $20 million a year on retainer, right?
Wow. For the listener, he just said $20 million.
Yes. And so we made 3 ads for less than it cost just for the production on 1 ad with the agency, and then we ran them on digital, and on digital platforms, they outperformed the ads that were running from Crispin. And so we lobbied, and we said, can we run these on TV? And we got the opportunity to do that. And then these ads outperformed the super expensive ads we're making with Crispin on TV. And so that was a big eye-opening moment. I was like, holy shit, did we just reinvent advertising, or at least reinvent advertising at Microsoft? Because with the agency, we used to get the ad concepts, and then we would do around the world focus group testing, focus group test them to death, literally, takes all the teeth out of the ads, right? But you had to do it because the production itself was so expensive that you had to be sure that they were going to, work. We're going to offend anybody and things like that. But of course, by the end of all the focus group testing, the ad's so watered down, it loses all its teeth. It's not nearly as funny, things like that, right? And so I was like, oh my God. So now, like, instead of focus group testing concepts to death before you shoot, you can just shoot them. And then you can test them in market, in digital, and the market never lies, because when people vote with their wallets, they're not going to lie. In a focus group, people are going to try and sound smart, right? And try and be the smartest person in the room.
Well, the fact that someone's asking your opinion means you have to give an opinion.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so, so anyway, I was like, here's a way that you can kind of shortcut the whole advertising production process and make more effective advertising without the agency.
You landed that plane, I got to tell you.
Well, it was a long way for a ham sandwich, as they say.
That was great. No, that was great. There's a lot to be said for the creative talent at agencies.
Yes.
And so I'm speaking to the filmmakers that are listening, or the creatives. There's creatives that listen to the show all the time. They might be inspired to read the book, Hacking Advertising, and you can get that at hackingadvertising.com. I'll put links in the show notes, and when you click on Jon's name, it'll take you to hackingadvertising.com. Buy the book. Proceeds go to Jon and his family that he's moved across country several times.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Some creatives could listen to this, buy the book, and go, you know what? I'm going to start a hybrid boutique. Like my company, TrueGent, and you can learn more at TrueGent.tv. I call my company a creative boutique versus a creative agency or video production company, because there are a handful of clients. And to your point, Jon, I got to tell you, I think it was last summer and the summer before, doing a client direct. So look, I'm like flipping it from the other side. You're talking about, if you're a client, go find a production company. I'm a production company, and filmmakers listening, they're like, should I have my own production company and go after brands? When I worked with the smallest, flattest department, sometimes one person was the creative department, and he or she brought in 3 other people to approve some stuff from different departments. It was so fun and so pure. The creative was so pure. There weren't a lot of filters and layers and feedback. There was criticism and constructive criticism as to like the objectives of the ad, people looking at it through the CMO's lens to say, are we hitting the right talking points? Things that are kind of, I mean, look, I'm a smart guy. I get it. I follow along, but that's not my expertise. Right. So if a word, I was on a tech scout today. I'm on the road. I'm coming to you live from an Airbnb. And I was at the tech scout, and the copywriter said, the client had us change a couple of words. It won't affect any of your shots.
Famous last words.
Almost, yeah. Well, no, it's true. And I said, I do want to know what the words are because I want to know what I'm making for you. But you're right. If it's just what you're saying, it doesn't really affect the shot. It's just in the voiceover.
Right. And, now we're in the midst of, agency disruption, right? And there's a lot of more modern agencies that are kind of built around what I'm talking about. And the holding company model is largely, I think it's hyperbole to say it's dying, but it's getting a lot smaller. And creative production companies are winning. And I was just looking it up, that creative production as an industry is growing at like 6%, and holding company model is down like 1%.
Oh, wow. This episode is brought to you by a new sponsor, Posh Duo. the original 2-in-1 hair and beard styling stick. I use it. It's made for filmmakers, handcrafted with beeswax, tea tree oil, a fresh hint of citrus, and a single Viking tear. Listeners of this show respect the process, get free shipping, and it comes in discreet packaging. There's a link in the show notes. Get the posh look. And more, the threat, and it is an existential threat to smaller production companies, is the in-house agency production unit that is kind of a spin-off or a riff on your model.
Right.
Oh, no, we'll do it right away. But I think it does not dismantle the layers that you talked about.
That's right.
So a filmmaker listening, they go to hackingadvertising.com, they buy the book. Can they call you with questions and say they heard it on Respect the Process? Will you give them a 10-minute phone call? I love it. I love it.
My contact information is on there, and my calendar link should be up there as well.
Oh, look at that. Well, I was like kind of half kidding.
Yeah.
but thank you. So how do you suggest the filmmaker with her production company gets on the radar of an LL Bean or any small client that has the funds to spend enough to make an ad that's going to make a difference? I don't mean like a $10,000 video.
Right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the hardest part, right? Is to get in front of a huge brand like that. I won't say I had the luxury, but because of all of the experience that I had working with all these big agencies and then also working at these huge brands, I had contacts that were in those type of brands when I got started, and we were able to land Microsoft and Amazon right away as clients. And then through that and our reputation, we've been able to grow in that way to get somebody right. And so if you're just starting out and you're very green and you've never really done this before, it's going to be hard to jump into making ads for big enterprise sized companies. But there's always the possibility of starting out and working with smaller brands. And the best way to do that is to network and try and make real connections. And then, there's always the make beautiful spec work thing and just share it, right? And try and get somebody's attention. Just make great creative, put it out there, try and hook up with the companies that you would love to work with online, follow them on LinkedIn, find them on Instagram, comment, like, and share their stuff. And, if you get the opportunity, say, I just made this great thing. I'd love for you to take a look.
I agree. It's so funny because to say make a spec spot sounds like the oldest answer in the book. But if you're going to dress for the job you want, you have to make the spec spot like the spot you want to make.
That's
so
right.
If you agree that great artists steal, I've actually told filmmakers, find a spot on YouTube from 15 years ago.
I love this.
And remake it and shoot it first with your iPhone before you spend any money. And, I'm also a proponent of Lego people. Shoot it with Legos, shoot it with dolls. So you have muscle memory of the craft and the angles and is it going to cut together?
Right.
Then get a crew, make it look shit hot, right? Make it look great. Because if I took an LL Bean commercial from 1997, okay, almost 30 years ago, and I shoot it today, it's not going to look exactly like that ad.
No.
Whether it's the craft has changed and improved, the location's not going to be the same, but the core storytelling components are built into that ad that made it successful.
100%.
Whereas so many filmmakers want to, I got somebody sent me something the other day, like, hey, here's my work. And I was like, well, it's not really a commercial. It's kind of, I know you're doing a product and it's kind of a sketch, a skit and everything, but it's not really an ad. So why would you try to write the ad? And this is maybe where we disagree and you can teach me. Why would you try and write the ad if you don't have the skill of crafting the ads? Right? Wild Gravity, you have you that knows how to write an ad, and I'm sure you bring on people as needed to craft the ad. But I say make the spec and then go out and don't call it a spec, but then don't make it for LL Bean. Find some regional brand, like don't make Carhartt. Makes a brand that no one knows.
Right.
And put that logo on it and then send it out. That's how you would attract LL Bean.
Yes.
Great story that's proven. Great craft. Because everybody's stuff looks great. And then you set it. Get it out there and send it to as many people as possible.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And to your point, it's something I talk about in Hacking Advertising. I love that you said great artist steal, because it's one of my favorite quotes. And I believe Picasso said it, and he also said, learn the rules as a craftsman so you can break the rules as an artist. Meaning, you need to understand Picasso.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
right.
he stole it from Socrates.
Right, exactly. And so I always talk about that the way that human taste works is that we like things that are like things that we already like, right? And so
we like things that are like things that we already like.
Yes.
Yes.
And everything is a riff off of something else. If you think about music, like jazz was a riff on classical, and rock's a riff on jazz and blues, and reggae and heavy metal and punk rock are all derivative of rock and roll, and that's okay. Right? And they're all great and great in their own ways. And so the way that we brainstorm at Wild Gravity, if there was a soap ad per se, right, we would say, what are all of the soap ads that you can remember? And you'd be like, well, I remember that Irish Spring ad where the guy whistles, and I remember that Ivory ad where the soap floats, and I remember Dove because it's a quarter moisturizer. And you're like, okay,
Old Spice, yeah,
right. And so then we would go, well, what would be the riff off of those for this brand? You know, brand X soap, let's call it, right? And then we can come up with 3 to 5 concepts that are like those ads, but as you stated so well, they're never going to be the same ad because you're making for a different brand, right?
And you're making it in a different time period with different craftspeople and different talent and different locations.
And probably only people our age remember that whistling Irish Spring ad anyway, right? Right. So, you know, you're not going to be in danger of that. And the best thing about it is, do clients like those? They love them because they're like something that they already like. In the back of their mind, they're expecting that type of creative. If you come in with this wild, crazy idea to the manager at P&G who's got a new brand of soap, he's going to be like, what the hell is this? Like you said, this isn't how TV commercials work. You've got to structure it in that way. You know, storytelling, the rules of storytelling are so old that the Greeks wrote about them, right? And there's a reason stories are constructed that way, and it's because our brains have been wired over thousands of years to accept stories like that. And you can invert the rules of storytelling, but you've got to be a master at it first. And so again, you've got to, I think what you were saying is so true. Like, go out, find some old ads, recreate them in your own way, and you're going to come up with something new. And riffing off of something else that is great always works.
Swede them. Do you know that reference?
No.
Swede them. Swede
Explain.
it. There was a movie with Jack Black and Mos Def by Michel Gondry, one of my favorite directors. I think it's not Please Be Kind, Rewind, but it might be called something like that. Be Kind, Rewind. and they lost all the movies at the video store, and they were trying to save Danny Glover was Pops. And so Jack Black and Mos Def recreate, I forget the love interest. They recreated all the movies on VHS using like Michel Gondry type, effects where the bicycle wheel moved the curtain behind them, and they wore tinfoil costumes, and they did Driving Miss Daisy, and they did Titanic. They did all the movies that became more popular than the originals. So then people started requesting, and I don't know why it was Swede, because they would say it was like the Swedish version at first.
Okay.
A very obscure reference, a deep cut, as the kids say.
Right.
John, new topic.
Okay.
Speed versus craft.
I think that
It's in the book.
It's very possible, and I argue often that doing things quickly often results in better creative than taking a long time.
You don't mean on set shooting that
No.
speed is better than craft. You mean in the let's just shoot the ad instead of testing it to death.
That's right. And, like, for an example, Microsoft came to us, the Windows B2B team, the commercial team, and they said, Windows 11 launches in a month, and we want you to take the Windows consumer version of this launch video and swap out the screens on the computer with your VFX department and make it business screens. And we'll use that as our launch ad. And we're like, that is a terrible idea, but of course we'll do it for you, right? Yeah. And so then what happened is a week later, they said, we think we're dead in the water because they played the consumer video for a bunch of executives and they hated it, so they killed it. And so there is no consumer video for you guys to use. And we said, well, you've already told us that you have 7 scenarios that you want to shoot, and we know what they are, so why don't we just create a net new video for you? And they were like, well, there's less than 3 weeks to do that. And we said, well, that's not a problem for us. And so we cast it, and we were shooting here in our studio in Seattle within 2 days. And we shot 7 different scenarios, the way, an IT manager onboarding, a new employee, all of these different business scenarios. And we have a killer VFX team, so we recreated all of the software, and we created a net new video for them in 2.5 weeks. And the executives at Microsoft loved it to the point where they ended up using the Windows commercial video as a centerpiece for the Windows consumer launch. And the chief product officer used it as the anchor as keynote. And so,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And so, like, that's an example where having less time actually potentially resulted in a better piece of creative than you would have got if you spent, 6 months on that.
Yeah, the pressure cooker.
Right.
You're thrown into the pressure cooker. You got to come up with something fast. I love those kind of things.
Right.
And while I don't recommend pushing things quickly on set, it is relatable to, the work fits on set. The work expands to fill the time allotted.
Yes.
If you had 4 shots to do in a 12-hour shoot day, by golly, you could take all the time, and you might be done an hour early, but you could do 4 shots and stretch out to a day. Conversely, I average 25 shots, not counting lens changes. I'll fit that into the 12-hour day.
Right. Yeah.
And as a business owner, it's fiscally irresponsible to go overtime, so that's not an option.
Right.
Like, so this week there's like 14 or 15 shots, but there are babies. So that, I quelled it, and people are like, can we get it done? I go, this is like half a day, not counting the babies. So if I apply that logic that the work expands to fill the time allotted, and that you can fit the work into the time allotted, I think that works for development as well, which is kind of the whole point of the book.
For sure.
Hacking Advertising. Get your copy at hackingadvertising.com. I mean, people are going to buy it just because I've beaten them over the head with the title.
I mean, they better. If you're listening, you better.
Yeah. Another one I got to ask. AI. How's AI going to affect Wild Gravity?
I think AI is affecting every part of our craft, and how can it not, right? And there's a couple of kind of overt effects in that. One is, some clients are trying to go direct with AI, and for the most part, they're not seeing the results they want because, as as I'm sure you've experimented with AI video, it's never exactly what you want. It's like us pulling the lever on a slot machine. It's like, here's a bunch of stuff, right? And at best with AI, you're getting, that's close enough. I'll take it, right?
Right. I surrender.
Right. Exactly. But it's never perfect. And if you use, if you're working with a brand like Amazon or Microsoft or anything that's technical that requires precision of screens or things like that, or pretty much any brand that demands perfect representation, it's just not there yet, and the continuity isn't there yet. But there is intense pressure from within these corporations to use more and more of it. And the related to that is budgets overall are getting much smaller. And so that is difficult to deal with. I would say, and I don't know if you've seen this as well, but AI has had a depressive effect on creative value, that people just expect to pay less for creative. I don't know if you're seeing that, but we've noticed that in the corporate world.
Yes, people, here's how I'll sum it up. I've done a handful of AI jobs, and interesting to this conversation, doing them through ad agencies, there was a little more of a process, a protocol, but clients still, whether directly to me or through the agency, use the phrase, can't you just...
Right.
Can't you just, make that... I don't know if that's a film rule or a roll behind John, or is that a snow plow? What is that thing, that round? Can't you just make it a square? And then I have to say, yeah, but then John's face may be totally different than everything else we've made.
Right.
So I instituted and it's not set in stone, the 4-week AI. I put it on my LinkedIn about a month or two ago. Week 1 is world building, cast, locations, wardrobe. In AI.
Yeah.
Week 2, and then you sign off on it. And then week 2 is storyboard within that world with those costumes and with those characters.
Yes.
Once the storyboards are approved, and you can go back and tweak, and somebody has feedback that she shouldn't wear that dress and it should be a set of overalls. Okay, fine, cool. There's time to do that. But now we got to move on. In week 3, we're going to edit everything together because we made the shots from week 2 from the storyboards. And then week 4 is traditional post cleanup, flame work, mix,
right,
things like that. But if in week 4 during the edit you go, maybe this should all take place in a castle. Can't you just make it all a castle?
Right. It's AI.
And if it's AI. Yeah. And if you believe the ads that teach you how to do AI and the workflow, right? Like I'm sure my listeners get that, and here's what you do. You create your world and feed it to all the characters with the angles. Consistency, that's what you need, baby. I don't know why I just turned into Austin Powers.
Hi, It's me, Jake, the editor. You probably know Commercial Directing Film School offers in-person boot camps and online courses. But did you know my dad does one-on-one consultations? Yeah, he does. So, now you know, okay? Anyway, now back to this enthralling interview.
But it doesn't work that well yet.
Right. It's getting there, but I agree with you. And I think more of the near immediate future of AI, first of all, what you said rings so true. And the end process especially is that at the end of the day, you need real like VFX and post-production professionals to make it work as seamlessly as possible.
Even the editing.
Right.
Like editing
for sure.
7 takes with errant, sort of, what do they call them? Aberrations or
hallucinations.
Hallucinations, that's the word. If you edit those out and use the best bits, you still need old school editing to help tell the story. Like
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one thing that we did is we had a client called Unlock and their financial home equity product. And we pitched $1 million concept and they had $100,000 budget. Mm-hmm. And the concept had forklifts with giant pallets of cash driving down a suburban street and pulling into each driveway. And were you to shoot this for real, that easily would have been a 7-figure production because you would have had to close off a whole suburban street. You would have had to, get permission from all the homeowners. You would have had to rent prop cash, which, as you probably know, is very expensive, surprisingly. Yeah. And for those who don't know, it's because of counterfeiting laws. Fake cash is tracked very carefully, and it is quite expensive to rent it. And $1 million is very small, fits in a briefcase, right? And so if you have a pallet of cash, that's literally billions of dollars.
Yeah, it's cheaper to use real cash.
Almost. So what we ended up doing was we built all of those effects and those backgrounds with AI, and then we filmed real actors on green screen in front of that. Right.
That's the job I did.
Yeah.
It was very effective. You could not have gotten the animal to do what it did in real life.
Right.
And the limitations.
I saw that post of yours. That was one with the cat, right?
With the cat, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, the creatives were very cool because the initial brief was one 30-second take. And at the time of rendering, because I was making the AI, it was 30 seconds. It's impossible to get a cat to go from A to B to B to C to C to D to E to F.
Right.
Because it was a plotted out thing that the cat walks in a room, jumps up on a painting, slides down and goes. And so it was like, not only as a storyteller do I believe that we need to punch in at like 14, 15 seconds, but the AI wants us to punch in at 14, 15 seconds.
Right.
Like we just can't generate. There's still some stitches going on. And then to the point of post-production, there's some flame work just to finesse. Like you get a good take, cut your losses, Photoshop it, flame it, do 2D, whatever you have to do. Because just throwing coins in the slot and pulling the lever to make another AI version, as people, despite what people will tell you about consistency, it's still not the same. There's a little thing here. I mean, I had a dog that would fly into a room at one point, or the cat would come alive from the painting in that spot. Hundreds. Yeah. There is a small village in Tennessee that no longer has water because of the AI experimentation I've done.
That's hilarious. But yeah, I think that's the near or immediate future with AI, is the real humans shot on green screen or in a gray room, right, with AI backgrounds and environments. And I'm sure you know about the Doug Liman film about Satoshi and Bitcoin, and they had all these A-list actors like Casey Affleck and I forget who else. But anyway, they shot the whole thing for $70 million in a gray room and put all the backgrounds and effects in with AI. And Lyman said, there was like 200 or 300 locations and it would have cost like $300 million for us to film it for real. But we were able to film the whole thing for $70 million. And I think that is the big trend that is going to carry this forward for now. It's not going to be full AI productions, but a blend.
Well, hopefully any clients that are out there listening that want to call Wild Gravity or TrueGen or any production company that you favor is listening to this. They made it through the whole podcast and they're going, you know what, by golly, these guys know their shit. I still like the freedom that I'm afforded working with agencies or brands direct to make something. I feel that's where a lot of the magic comes from, when even the brief itself isn't as sacred. Just back to where we started this conversation. VML, I think they're called VML again, right?
Yes.
They've been a few things. Had a great time working with them on a few projects. And luckily, one of them we did with the Property Brothers. And they were expected to ad-lib because that's what they had done for the brand. It was for ADT. And so that was a lot of fun. Then another one, it was really prescriptive. And because, oh no, the creative director said this, no, the executive creator said that. It was kind of that old school Crispin-y leftover model of
sure
everything had to be signed off on by everybody.
Right. Land of a thousand improvers.
Up to the night before the shoot.
Yeah.
John, I gotta wrap it up. This has been a great conversation. I've been looking forward to it for a long time.
Agreed.
When they click on your name, it's going to go to hackingadvertising.com, right? We're going to move some books, people. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you were thinking I would or hoping to be asked?
Not necessarily, but I did want to say it's amazing to finally be talking, at least virtually, face-to-face after we've known each other for kind of years online. We're kind of like both fighting the good fight.
Oh, thank you, man. Well, here's how we end the show.
All right.
It's called Respect the Process. And if you've listened, you answer that question. What does respect the process mean to you?
Respect the process means trust the experts, right? There's been people that have been doing this for their entire lives. And if you're a junior marketing manager, don't come in and act like you are the expert. You obviously feel free to make your suggestions, but be respectful, be deferential, ask people to collaborate with you. Don't demand things. Like work with the pros and respect the pros and ask for their input and be collaborative.
That's a great answer. You can really learn a lot and take credit for it later if you sit back and wait or ask people, I don't know, you've done this before. And then you'll sit back and just watch someone do what they've done for your project.
Exactly right.
It's almost cheating.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of did that when I kind of made the mistake and then also did it the other way, where, I would sit back. The right way, obviously, was to sit back and watch and then, respectfully say, I had this idea. What do you guys think about it? And then the wrong way to do it is, I know that we have to do it this way. Do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's going to, first of all, you're probably wrong. And then second of all, you're not going to have buy-in from the people that actually have to make the work.
Well, hey, thanks again. I'm going to put links everywhere. It was great chatting, and you'll have to come back on. And when's the second book coming out?
It's been germinating in my head. I might start working on it the second half of this year.
What's it called?
It might be called Monetize Your Head or Hacking Happiness, the Formula for Life Satisfaction. Those are the two seeds I have germinating.
Yeah, because stick with the hacking, right? You got some equity in that.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Hey, thanks again, John. Good chatting.
Jordan, it was an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Wow, that was a fun interview. I learned a lot, not just about our guest, but about myself as well. I forgot to mention Kevin O'Brien, a terrific commercial director, has a new course called Master Virtual Production for Commercial Directors. I think that says it all. You can see it at commercialdirectingfilmschool.com. It's Kevin's course. It's virtual production, and the training focuses not on the technology, but on the principles of storytelling and how you can best use that tool. If you use the code VIRTUAL, you'll save $50. How about that? Thank you, Kevin, for this new course.
Commercial Directing Film School's mission is to help filmmakers direct commercials professionally. With online courses and in-person boot camps, we demystify the process to get you to the next level, all taught by your accessible mentor, filmmaker Jordan Brady.
True Gentleman Industries. We make commercials.